I dedicated my life to studies and work. Today I have everything, except company. I'm sitting in my home office right now, surrounded by framed diplomas that line every wall like trophies in a museum dedicated to academic achievement. 3 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees, and 1 PhD, all from prestigious universities, all earned with honors, all representing thousands upon thousands of hours of study and sacrifice. Are you enjoying this story? Then consider supporting the channel by subscribing. Take a look. 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are still not subscribed to the channel. If you're part of that group, take the opportunity to subscribe now. It's free and you'll keep receiving amazing stories. And don't forget, at the end of the video, you'll find more stories like this one. Next to them are the professional awards, 15 of them, plaques and certificates recognizing excellence in my field, Employee of the Year awards, Innovation awards, leadership recognition. My CV is 32 pages long, single-spaced, documenting a career that most people would consider extraordinarily successful. My bank accounts hold more money than I ever imagined possible when I was young, multiple millions accumulated through decades of strategic career moves and disciplined saving. I own this house outright, paid in cash, worth over $2 million. I have luxury cars in the garage. I have investment portfolios that generate 6 figures annually in passive income. By every conventional metric of success, I have made it. I have everything, except I don't. Because sitting here at 66 years old in this expensive house, surrounded by all these symbols of achievement, I'm completely, utterly, devastatingly alone. There is not a single other person in this house. There hasn't been in the entire 15 years I've owned it. There is no spouse reading in the other room, no children calling to check in, no grandchildren's photos on the walls alongside my diplomas, no friends stopping by for coffee, no one. Just me, my diplomas, my awards, my money, and a silence so profound it feels like it's crushing me. And the most horrifying realization, the one that's been growing in my mind for months now, and that I can no longer ignore. I did this to myself. Every choice I made, every time I prioritized achievement over connection, every moment I chose studying or working over human relationships, I was building this prison I now live in. And I can't escape it. It's too late. Let me tell you how I built this cage, how I dedicated every single second of my life to studies and work, and ended up here, wealthy and accomplished, and more alone than I thought it was possible for a human being to be. Maybe if I tell you the whole story, someone out there will recognize themselves in the early chapters and make different choices before they end up in the final chapter like me, surrounded by success and devoid of meaning. I was always a smart kid. That's not arrogance, just fact. School came easily to me. I understood concepts quickly, retained information effortlessly, tested well. My parents, both teachers, recognized this early and encouraged it, praised my academic achievements, made education the central focus of our household, and I loved the validation that came with being the smart kid, with getting A's, with teachers holding me up as an example, with being at the top of every class. It felt good to be special, to be better than other kids at something. And so I leaned into it, made it my identity. I was the smart one, the one who was going places, the one who would amount to something. In high school, while other kids were going to football games and parties and dances, I was studying. Not because I had to, I could have maintained my straight A's with half the effort, but because studying was safe, familiar, validating. Social situations made me anxious. I didn't know how to talk to people about normal teenage things. I didn't understand the social dynamics, the unwritten rules, the casual way other kids seemed to connect with each other. So I avoided it. When someone invited me to something, I'd say, I can't, I have to study, even if I didn't really need to study. It was an excuse that people accepted, even respected. The smart kid who's too busy studying to waste time on frivolous social activities. That's how I framed it in my mind. Everyone else was wasting time, and I was being productive, building my future. There was a girl in my junior year, Emily, who sat next to me in AP Chemistry. She was smart too, one of the few students who could keep up with me academically, and she seemed interested in more than just my help with homework. She'd start conversations before class, laugh at my awkward attempts at humor, find excuses to work with me on lab projects. Looking back now, 49 years later, I can see clearly that she liked me, that she was giving me every signal a 16-year-old girl could give that she wanted me to ask her out. But I didn't ask her out. I was too focused on my studies, too anxious about the vulnerability of dating, too convinced that relationships were distractions from what really mattered, which was getting into a top university with full scholarships. Senior year, Emily tried one more time. She asked me directly if I wanted to go to prom with her, and I said no. I told her I couldn't because I had AP exams coming up and needed to study. The hurt on her face was obvious, but I pushed it away, told myself I had made the smart choice, the mature choice. Prom was a waste of time and money. Studying for AP exams was an investment in my future. I was being strategic, while everyone else was being frivolous. I was so catastrophically wrong, but I wouldn't understand that for almost 5 decades. I got into MIT with a full-ride scholarship, graduated high school as valedictorian, gave a speech about the importance of dedication and hard work. My parents were bursting with pride. I felt like I had won, like I had figured out the formula for success, and everyone else was just stumbling around. I was 18 years old, and I thought I was smarter than everyone, thought I had life figured out. I was an arrogant fool. College was supposed to be about more than just academics, about personal growth and social development, and finding yourself, and maybe finding someone to build a life with. But I approached MIT the same way I had approached high school, as an academic challenge to be conquered, nothing more. I triple majored in mathematics, physics, and computer science because I could handle the workload, and it would look impressive on my CV. I took maximum credit loads every semester, did summer research programs instead of taking breaks, graduated in 3.5 years instead of 4, because why waste time? I lived in the library. My roommates gave up trying to include me in social activities after the first month. I had no friends, just study partners when absolutely necessary for group projects. There were opportunities for romance in college, even for someone as socially awkward as me. MIT has plenty of brilliant, interesting women who might have appreciated someone equally driven academically, but I never pursued any of it. Every time someone showed interest, I found reasons to avoid it. Too busy with classes, too focused on research, too worried that a relationship would hurt my GPA or distract me from my goals. I told myself I would have time for that later, after I established my career, after I achieved financial security. The lie I repeated to myself for decades. Later. Always later. Never now. I went straight from undergrad into a PhD program at Stanford, again with full funding. 5 years of intense research, publishing papers, building my reputation in my field. I was 22 when I started, 27 when I defended my dissertation. My 20s, the years when most people are exploring life and relationships and figuring out who they are, I spent in libraries and labs, alone, working. I told myself I was building something important. I was building nothing but an elaborate cage. After the PhD came the job offers, multiple offers from top tech companies and prestigious research institutions. I chose the company with the highest salary and the best benefits package, moved to Silicon Valley, and threw myself into work with the same obsessive intensity I had applied to my studies. I was making over $150,000 a year at 27, which in the early 80s was an enormous amount of money. I was on my way to the wealth I had always dreamed of having, and I was completely, utterly alone. My 20s and 30s were a blur of work and more education. I did 2 master's degrees part-time while working full-time, one in business administration and one in electrical engineering, because more credentials meant more opportunities, meant more money. I got promoted rapidly because I worked longer hours than anyone else, was always available, always willing to take on extra projects, always reliable. I had no life outside of work to interfere with my complete dedication to the company. While my colleagues left at reasonable hours to go home to spouses or partners or friends, I stayed late. While they took vacations and weekends off, I kept working. While they built lives, I built a career and a bank account. I was successful, extraordinarily successful. By 40, I was a senior vice president making over $300,000 a year. By 50, I was making over $500,000. By 60, I was wealthy by any definition, with a net worth in the millions. I owned this house, paid cash, bought luxury cars, had investment portfolios that would sustain me comfortably for multiple lifetimes. I had achieved the financial security I had been chasing since I was a teenager, and I had sacrificed absolutely everything else to get it. The social invitations stopped coming somewhere in my 30s. Colleagues stopped asking if I wanted to get drinks after work, stopped inviting me to dinner parties or weekend barbecues because I always said no. I have to work became such a consistent response that people stopped asking. I told myself I didn't care, that I didn't need social activities, that I was focused on what mattered. What actually happened is that I isolated myself so completely that eventually I had no one left to isolate from. I had successfully eliminated all human connection from my life. There were a few moments over the decades where I glimpsed what I was doing to myself, where I felt a pang of something that might have been loneliness or regret, but I always buried it quickly under more work. In my late 30s, I went to a colleague's wedding. I almost didn't go, made excuses about being too busy, but the colleague was someone I worked closely with and it would have been professionally awkward to skip it. So I went, alone obviously, and I sat through the ceremony watching two people promise to love each other for life, and I felt something crack inside me. Not break completely, just crack. A small fissure of awareness that I was missing something, that there was an entire dimension of life I had never experienced and might never experience. But then the feeling passed. I went back to work Monday morning, and I buried it under more projects and more goals and more achievement. In my early 50s, my parents died within 6 months of each other. I flew back for the funerals, stayed 2 days each, felt a complicated mix of grief and numbness. At my mother's funeral, my cousin pulled me aside and said something I've never forgotten. "Your mom was so proud of all your success, but she was worried about you too. She said you were always alone, that you never seemed to have joy in your life beyond work. She wanted you to find love, to have a family. She died worried that you'd end up old and alone with nothing but your money to keep you company." I told my cousin that my mom didn't need to worry, that I was fine, that everyone's path was different. But her words stuck with me, needled at me during the flight back to California, until I successfully buried them under more work. I never dated seriously. There were a few awkward attempts in my 40s and 50s, usually when someone at work tried to set me up because they couldn't understand how someone like me was still single. Are you enjoying this story? Then consider supporting the channel by subscribing. Take a look. 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are still not subscribed to the channel. If you're part of that group, take the opportunity to subscribe now. It's free and you'll keep receiving amazing stories. And don't forget, at the end of the video, you'll find more stories like this one. Those dates were disasters. I had spent 40 years avoiding emotional intimacy, and it showed. I didn't know how to make conversation about anything except work and my academic achievements. I didn't know how to flirt or be charming. I didn't know how to be vulnerable or open. The physical aspects of relationships were completely foreign to me, terrifying in their intimacy. After enough failed dates, I stopped trying. It was easier to accept that I was alone and would remain alone than to keep confronting my complete inability to connect with another human being. Yes, at 66 years old, I am a virgin. I have never kissed someone with passion. I have never slept next to another person, never felt the warmth of another body beside mine. I have never made love. I have never experienced any form of physical intimacy beyond the occasional handshake. I have never felt what it's like to be desired or to desire someone in return. I have spent 66 years in this body and never shared it with another person in any meaningful way. That's what happens when you spend your entire life avoiding vulnerability, avoiding connection, telling yourself that relationships can wait until after you achieve your goals. You end up old and alone and virginal in every sense that matters, and all the money and degrees in the world can't fix that. I retired at 63, not because I wanted to, but because the company was restructuring and offering generous packages. I took the money, which was substantial, and suddenly had nothing to do. For over 40 years, work had been my identity, my purpose, my reason for existing. And then it was gone. I tried to fill the time with activities, with travel, with hobbies I read about online, but everything felt hollow. I traveled to Europe, to Asia, to South America. Always alone, always eating in restaurants alone, always walking through museums alone, always seeing beautiful things and having no one to share them with. I tried joining clubs, tried taking classes, tried everything the internet suggests for making friends later in life. But making real connections at 66 when you've spent your entire life avoiding them is nearly impossible. I had no practice at friendship, no experience with vulnerability, no understanding of how to actually connect with people beyond surface-level professional interactions. My house is beautiful. 4,000 square feet, professionally decorated, every room perfectly appointed, and completely empty of life. I eat dinner alone every night, usually something I pick up because I never learned to cook for one person, sitting in my dining room at a table that seats 8 but only ever seats me, watching Netflix on an iPad because the silence is unbearable. After dinner, I'll work on some consulting projects I take on occasionally, just to fill time, or I'll read, or I'll watch more TV. And then I'll go to bed alone in a king-size bed in a master suite that's bigger than most people's entire apartments. And I'll do it all again the next day, every day, for 3 years since retirement. The worst part, the thing that makes this almost unbearable, is the talking to Alexa. I have Alexa devices in every room of the house, not because I need smart home functionality, but because sometimes I need to hear a voice respond to me, even if it's artificial. I'll say, "Alexa, what's the weather?" just to hear a response. I'll ask her stupid questions throughout the day just to have something resembling interaction. "Alexa, tell me a joke." "Alexa, play some music." "Alexa, what time is it?" I know it's pathetic. I know it's sad. But when you go days without speaking to another human being, when the silence becomes so oppressive it feels like it's smothering you, even an AI voice provides some small comfort. I have become that person, the lonely old man talking to his smart speaker. Because there's no one else, my health has been declining over the past year. My memory isn't what it used to be. I forget things, lose track of conversations, sometimes can't remember if I've eaten or taken my medications. My movements are slower. My balance isn't good. I've fallen twice in the past 6 months. My doctor has been expressing increasing concern, suggesting that living alone might not be safe much longer. What if I fall and can't get up? What if I forget to turn off the stove? What if I take my medication twice or not at all? These are real risks now, so I've hired in-home caregivers, people who come by twice a day to check on me, help with medications, prepare meals, make sure I'm okay. They're professional and kind, but it's a business transaction. They're being paid to care, not caring because they want to. They come for their scheduled hours, do their jobs, and leave. One of them, Maria, is particularly nice, asks me about my day, listens patiently to my rambling stories about my career, looks at my diplomas with appropriate impressed noises. But I know it's all professional courtesy. She's not my friend. She's my employee. When her shift ends, she goes home to her real life, to her husband and her children, and she doesn't think about the lonely old man in the big house until her next shift. But the in-home care is just a temporary solution, a bridge to what's inevitable. My decline is progressing. My doctor has been clear about that. Within a year, maybe 2, I'm going to need more comprehensive care, the kind you can only get in a facility. So I've started touring assisted living and memory care facilities, looking for a place where I'll spend whatever time I have left. I've visited 5 so far, all expensive, all highly rated, all depressing, despite their beautiful grounds and their cheerful staff and their promises of dignity and community. I've chosen one, the most expensive one, because why not? What else am I going to do with my money? It costs $12,000 a month. I can afford it easily from my investment income alone. I've signed the preliminary paperwork. When my condition deteriorates to the point where living alone becomes too dangerous, I'll move in. I'll leave this house with all its empty rooms. We'll move into a smaller apartment in a facility full of other old people who are also declining, and I'll live there until I die. And here's what haunts me most. When I die, there will be no one to mourn me, no spouse to grieve, no children to feel the loss, no grandchildren to miss their grandfather, no close friends to attend my funeral. The facility will handle everything because there's no family to make arrangements. They'll cremate me. My ashes will go in a niche somewhere, and that will be it. The end of 66 years of existence. All my achievements, all my degrees, all my awards, all my money. None of it will matter. I'll be forgotten within days, probably hours. The world will continue on as if I never existed, because in all the ways that matter, I barely did exist. I worked, I studied, I accumulated, but I never actually lived. I look around my office at all these diplomas, these symbols of achievement that I sacrificed everything to obtain. 3 bachelor's degrees because I wanted to prove I could handle triple majoring. 2 master's degrees because I thought more credentials would lead to more success. A PhD because I wanted the prestige, wanted to be called doctor, wanted to have that ultimate academic achievement. 15 professional awards for excellence in my field, for innovation, for leadership. And what do they mean now? Nothing. They're just pieces of paper in expensive frames. They didn't make me happy. They didn't fill the void in my life. They didn't provide companionship or love or meaning. They're just there, decorating the walls of a home office in a house where no one lives except me. The money I've accumulated, the millions in various accounts and investments, what's it for? I can't take it with me. I have no heirs to leave it to. It will probably go to charity, to organizations I'll designate in my will, but that I have no real connection to. Some non-profit will get a generous donation, will send a thank you letter that no one will read, will maybe put my name on a plaque somewhere, and that will be my legacy. A name on a plaque. An asterisk in someone's donor list. That's what all those years of sacrifice and work amount to. I think about what my life could have been if I had made different choices, if I had said yes to Emily when she asked me to prom, if I had actually dated in college instead of spending every waking hour in the library, if I had prioritized building relationships with the same intensity I prioritized building my career. If I had understood that balance wasn't weakness but wisdom, that working 80 hours a week for 40 years wasn't dedication but tragedy, that accumulating degrees and money without accumulating experiences and relationships meant building an impressive-looking prison. I imagine an alternate version of my life, one where I still worked hard and achieved success, but also made room for love, where I married someone, maybe Emily or someone I met in college or someone I worked with in my 30s, where we built a life together, bought this house together, filled it with children and noise and mess and life, where I have memories of family dinners and birthday parties and graduations and weddings, where I have grandchildren who visit on weekends, who run through these rooms bringing chaos and joy, where I'm not facing assisted living alone but with a partner of decades, where we'll grow old together and face whatever comes together, where my decline won't be mourned by paid staff, but by people who actually love me, who will grieve when I'm gone, because I mattered to them in ways that went beyond my professional achievements or my bank account. But that's not the life I lived. That's not the life I built. I built this life, this lonely, empty, achievement-filled prison. Every choice was mine. Every time I said, I can't, I have to study, or I can't, I have to work, I was choosing this. I was choosing isolation over connection, achievement over experience, money over love. And now I live with the consequences. The cruelest part is that I thought I was being smart. I genuinely believed that dedication to studies and career, that sacrifice of personal life for professional success, was the intelligent choice, the strategic choice. I believed that if I just worked hard enough and achieved enough and accumulated enough, everything else would fall into place. But it doesn't fall into place. You have to build it intentionally over time. And if you don't build it, if you ignore it while focusing on other things, it doesn't exist. And then you end up like me, 66 years old, wealthy, accomplished, impressive CV, empty house, no one to share any of it with. If I could go back, if I could talk to my teenage self making those early choices that would shape everything that followed, I would grab him and shake him and say, "You're wrong. About everything. Yes, study hard. Yes, get good grades. Yes, go to a good college. But also go to the prom. Go to the football games. Hang out with friends. Say yes to Emily. Date in college. Build friendships. Make time for people. Understand that relationships aren't distractions from life, they're the point of life. That having 1 degree and a healthy social life is infinitely better than having 5 degrees and complete isolation. That making 100,000 a year with a spouse and children is infinitely better than making $1 million a year alone. That success without anyone to share it with isn't success at all. It's just organized loneliness. I would tell him that all those hours he's going to spend studying when he doesn't need to, all those social invitations he's going to decline, all those opportunities for connection he's going to avoid, they're building a prison. He won't see it for decades, will actually feel proud of his dedication and discipline, but he's constructing the cage he'll live in for the rest of his life. And by the time he realizes what he's done, it will be too late to undo it. The window for building a life closes faster than you think, and once it's closed, all the degrees and money in the world can't reopen it. But I can't go back. I can't warn my younger self. I can't make different choices. All I can do is sit here in this expensive house, surrounded by diplomas and awards that mean nothing, talking to Alexa because there's no one else to talk to, watching my memory fail and my body decline, preparing to move into assisted living where I'll die alone, leaving behind only money and achievements and a cautionary tale about the price of prioritizing success over humanity. I dedicated my life to studies and work. I have 3 university degrees. I have 2 master's degrees. I have a PhD. I have 15 professional awards. I have a bank account with millions of dollars. I have luxury cars and a beautiful house and investments that generate 6 figures annually in passive income. I have everything that society told me to pursue, everything that's supposed to represent success and achievement, and a life well lived. And I have 0 people in my life, 0 relationships, 0 love, 0 meaningful human connection. I am 66 years old, wealthy beyond my childhood dreams, accomplished by any conventional measure, and more alone than I thought it was possible for a human being to be. I have everything except company, except love, except anyone who cares whether I live or die, except anyone to share my life with, except all the things that actually make life worth living. This is what happens when you dedicate every second to achievement without balancing it with connection. This is what happens when you tell yourself later for 40 years, and then suddenly you're old and it's too late. This is what happens when you build an impressive resume and an impressive bank account, but forget to build a life. You end up rich and accomplished and completely devastatingly alone, talking to AI assistants because there's no one else, declining into assisted living with no one to mourn you, dying with diplomas on the walls, but no one who loves you. Don't make my mistakes. Please learn from my catastrophic failure. Study, yes. Work hard, yes. Achieve, yes. Are you enjoying this story? Then consider supporting the channel by subscribing. Take a look. 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are still not subscribed to the channel. If you're part of that group, take the opportunity to subscribe now. It's free, and you'll keep receiving amazing stories. And don't forget, at the end of the video, you'll find more stories like this one. But not at the expense of everything else. Not at the expense of love and friendship and human connection. Not at the expense of actually living, because I can tell you from experience, from sitting here at 66 surrounded by all the symbols of success and drowning in loneliness, that having everything means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Success without company isn't success. It's just an expensive way to be alone. And no amount of money or degrees or awards can save you from the hell of that realization when it comes too late to do anything about it.